Hi crafters, welcome back to my channel, Margaret Knob Designs. We are working on a recipe box using What's Cooking from Country Craft Creations. It's exclusively their collection, and this is a design team project for Country Craft Creations. So what we're going to be working on today is working on our box and getting the outside of it covered and working on some different design elements for this recipe box. I am going to for sure work with you on covering the outside and putting this easel together. As far as covering the inside, it's very similar to the outside, so I'm going to do that off camera, and then we will either finish up the feet and the silverware or those things on the box, depending upon how much time goes by. So I also wanted to say one other thing. I know that there was some confusion when it came to the original measurement as far as cutting the cardstock for the recipe box for covering the outside of the new box. And for that, I have to apologize. I'm sorry. I did make some mistakes on that. And I am going to be putting the measurements for the box down in the original video captions, as well as down below this caption. I will not give you the measurements for the box matting, and which is a design paper. The reason why is because the design paper can actually be very different for each box that you create. And when I say very different, I don't mean like huge amounts of differences, but small differences. So one of the things that I can give you an example of is that when we cut these the sides for this box and the chipboard pieces, actually they are 1 by 5, I think, or something, but when I'm cutting my my design paper for covering these, I actually cut these at 1 1/16 in width, because once I got the black cardstock on and it getting put onto this, it actually ended up being a little bit bigger than I wanted it, than what you would think. Because if you made something, here, let me grab this. If you made something that was 1 inch, you would think you would cut it down by 1/8 of an inch. But if you look at this, this is what we're going to cover this with. This is actually measuring 1 1/16. I know it's only a 1/16 of an inch bigger, but typically the way that I work is I cut down by 1/8 of an inch. So typically this would have been 7/8 of an inch wide, but because of the way that the paper goes on this part of the box, it actually needs to be 1 1/16. Now, because you put yours together one way, I put it together another way, you really need to measure out your design paper, designer's paper, to make sure that it's the correct width. And traditionally, when I do a box, especially on the top, for like these sides around the top, I traditionally make them, if this is a 1 inch width piece of chipboard, I almost always cut my design paper at 1 inch as well. And that usually gives me enough to get me that small black border or whatever color border around it. This one happens to be just a little bit bigger, but that's why I just always recommend measuring and remeasuring based upon how it works for you. I will give you my measurements and I will tell you what size I'm putting on, but don't take that as the gospel. You need to measure out your box when you're putting it together. So let's get started on this, and what we're going to do is we are going to start out by putting the easel on our or get our easel set and ready. So our easel cards were 6.5 by 5. That's how the size of the chipboard, and I added an additional 1.5 inches on each of these. So again, I'm putting all measurements for the black cardstock and the chipboard in down below here. So you'll have that for putting your recipe box together. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to attach these together, and I'll show you how to do that. We're using construction strips, and the construction strip itself measures 1 3/4 by 6.5. So end to end, it's 6.5. And then you're going to, when you take it to your scoreboard, you are going to score the first spot at 3/4 inch, and then you're going to score at 1 inch, and then again at 1 3/4 inch. So to break it down, this piece here is 3/4 inch. This is 1/4 inch. This is 3/4 inch. So that's how you should make both of these construction pieces together, because what we're going to do is to give it some leeway, like a gusset in here, for putting them together on top, as well as when we lay it down, because the top one is going to lay across the other piece. And I'll show you how that goes. So we want to put these on before we put our design paper on, and it doesn't matter which one we use. The only way that it matters which easel piece that you use first or work with first is if you make this other easel piece, the leaning one, a different size. And actually, I had done that on my other book, or not book, my other recipe box. I actually made it, well, probably about that width. So probably about, well, this is 6.5. So I probably made it about 4.5 inches. And one thing that was the benefit of that is I had enough design paper. Out of the 3 sheets of design paper, I still had enough to cover fully the front and the back. I will show you how we're going to cover this piece, which works out just fine because the back of each is going to be covered just a little bit different, and I will show you it's not too drastic of a difference. But let's get these together, and we can get going. One of the things that I always appreciate is feedback in the comments down below, whether it's positive or negative. Of course, we always prefer to get positive, but sometimes the positive isn't where we learn the most. So, you know, if there's something that you would like, or something you'd like to see more of or need help with, then I would like to hear about that as well. So please feel free to leave any types of comments that you have down below, as long as they are reasonable in the sense that it's related to the video, or something that you would like to see in the videos going forward. We're going to measure this so that this easel piece goes right to the edge of our easel, making sure that we have the ability to bend. And this is going to dry clear on this glue, but it also is going to be covered by our design paper, so we should be just fine. All right, so this easel piece is going to actually sit on the bottom of, or the top of our box here, and we will make sure we get that put on in just a minute. But first of all, what we're going to do is to get this other piece onto here, and we're going to attach both easel pieces together. I hope the rest of you have wonderful weather today. Here in Wisconsin, it's a beautiful weather day. We've got lots of sun, and it's not warm, but it's not cold either. So it's just nice, cool spring temperatures with lots of sunshine. So that's awesome. Sunshine always can make such a difference. All right, so we've got that together. So then our next step is going to be getting this one glued onto this piece right here so that we have all of our pieces together. Okay, I'm just going to put that down to the edge of here. And quite honestly, this one, I put it together like this with it on the edge or on the back side, but you really could put this together so that it went over the top as well. You know, either side really doesn't matter. It's just the way I chose to do it this time. So, and what I mean by that is the strip could have gone over the top and glued here on these sides. Because we're covering it with design paper, it doesn't really matter. So, all right. So, in putting this together with our box, what we are going to do is we are going to glue this to the front of our box. And once we have this glued down and our magnet put in here, we will then put our design paper on. Also, be sure you get out your strip of fabric, or not fabric, but ribbon. If you want to put a ribbon on your box to lift this easel up, and I will show you that again, what I did with mine. We're just going to glue that down so that it's to the edge of the box. And what I was talking about with the ribbon is right here. So we're going to put some ribbon right on the back of here so that this can be lifted up and it doesn't cause any issues with lifting that up. So that piece of ribbon is actually going to go right here on this piece. And we are going to try to find the center of this piece. So 6.25, we should have 3.25, 6.5, I'm sorry. We should have 3.25 on either side. And you can have as long of a piece or short of a piece as you would like or that you feel comfortable with. This is some buffalo check ribbon that I got from Country Craft Creations, and I'm just going to take a small piece of this, and I'm going to just make a very small tab here, just big enough so that it can lift up or be lifted up. Make sure I'm doing that right. Hold on. See, I almost did it on the wrong side. Oh my gosh. Okay. So really, oh my goodness. There we go. Good thing I stopped to think for a minute. So you want to put that piece of ribbon, see where you have your gusset here? You want that ribbon going right here so that it can be lifted up. So alrighty, where's my pencil? I'm not worried about the pencil being on the back of here because again, we're covering that up. So with our designer paper, so we will be just fine. Nothing's going to show or stick out. I usually like to put the ribbon on with a piece of the score tape. I just feel like it holds a little bit better with score tape. I think I'm gonna do that. My pokey tool here, my hooked pokey tool, usually works the best for me when it comes to pulling off the score tape backing, but it's always a treat when it's on top of the ribbon. And quite honestly, you could use glue as well or put score tape over the top. This is just how I've done it, but there's other ways of doing it. Come on, silly thing. Oh my goodness. There we go. And again, I want to leave just a little tab because I don't want it to stick out too much, just a little bit. And then we can put our designer paper on here when we're set. And this is going to come back. This will fold down here, and this will lift up. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to put our magnets. It pretty much lays down all by itself, but I just prefer the option of having a magnet on it, and I think that it just gives it a little bit more of a, you know, that way if I pick up the box at any point, it will not flop on me. That's, I guess, essentially why I want to do that as far as putting my magnet down. Okay. And I'm using the bigger magnets just because I like how strong they are. And you probably could use the smaller magnets. I'm sure it's probably would not be an issue. And I just want to get this sitting evenly on the top of my box and lift. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Sitting evenly and push that magnet down. There we go. Now stay. There we go, it stays. So we're all set with that. So the next thing that we're going to do is to start putting our designer paper on our box. And let me pull out. We're going to start with the top of the box, and then we're going to do the easel. So the designer paper that is on for the sides of the box is here. Each one of those is measured at 5 1/8 by 1 1/16. So that is going to be for the sides of our box. So we are going to get that on. I've cut all of these, and I have inked with Vintage Photo for all the sides of that. And the reason why I've done that is really because I don't want any of the white core showing on the sides of the paper. I prefer not to see strong white core. So that's why I've done that. And then this is the other side. We'll put that on in a minute. Our front to our box. The strip is, I have it as, I would say it's 6 1/2 with 1/16. So 6 1/2 is 6 1/2 is 10/8, so 11/8 if you want to have an exact measurement. But otherwise, I would say to cut it just a pinch longer than 6 1/2. Again, that's our front. The front for us was, this is making it a little bit longer than our original piece. I always would suggest, again, measuring your box, making sure it's right for the way that you want it covered. Okay, there it is. So we're going to cover these, and then once we do the easel, I want to show you how I put the pocket page on the top of that easel, and how we're going to cover the tape on that as well. So let's start out by putting our lid piece on. I want to make sure we're still good. Just doing a dry fit. So we have I just love these papers, and I think that I'm going to be making these boxes. I'm going to give them to my, I want to change this around. I want this facing toward the front so that when someone looks at the box, they are looking at this paper going the right way, or going, facing toward them. So I'm just matching that up. Goodness gracious. I want to make sure that it doesn't go over that line. So I was saying I'm thinking about giving these boxes to my sisters so they have recipe boxes. I think they would really like that as a Christmas gift, and they're easy enough to make that they can be, so that's what it looks like on top right now, and then we can lift that up. All right, doing the easel. we are going to go ahead and get our easel pieces. And I want to do the inside of the easel first. I'm going to do that. And what we're going to be doing with that is we, like I said, my papers weren't quite, I didn't have quite enough paper. So, or that was all together, but I could cut pieces off. So what I decided to do was to put in 2 small strips along the back, and then I will cut the paper so that it fits nicely in between the two. But I wanted to get these down first before I cut that to make sure that I was cutting it properly, the proper width. I didn't want to just go by what kind of looked right. So and quite honestly, you know, you could take and put any other kind of paper on the inside here, or you could just make it all black on the inside. It's totally up to you. I just think it looks more finished with the paper going like, or you know, with the same pattern paper on the inside. So the other thing that I'm going to do, because this is going to sit like this is going to be the proper way it's going to be fitting. I'm going to make sure that my picture goes this way. So what I want to do is I just want to, I'm going to take a little tinge off the bottom there, and then I'm going to measure this so that I have enough room. So when I measure my pattern paper, a lot of times what I do is I'll take and put my pattern paper up to where I'm wanting, and I have my small, like 1/16 of an inch of black there. And you can see how this goes over that piece. So what I usually do is I take and I mark right where that next piece is. But that's not really where I want to cut it. So what I do when I bring my cutting board, on this cutting board that I use a few different ones, but when I use this one, you can see that there is this thin brown line in between where the paper goes in. So what I will do is I will match up this line, this pencil line that I drew right here, matching it up to right here, and then it'll cut inside, so about 1/16 of an inch away. So that's how I tend to cut my paper for matching it up to where I want it to be. And most often it works well. And I say most often because we all know that I tend to have creative opportunities with my paper. So there you can see where it's pretty straight of a cut, and I forgot to mark this. So this one, though, I will tell you, because I'm marking it where my strips are, I want this to be cut right on that spot. This is a Stampin' Up! Cutter, and I have to say that I like it for small cuts. It's not my favorite for cutting multiple layers. And the reason why I like it for small cuts is because if you look at, I don't know how I can show you, if you look at this cutter, these lines in here are a lot easier to see than they are on some of the Fiskars, because of the way that this comes down. If I'm looking at it, see, I can see the 1 inch right here. Plus, it also has the 1 inch in here that I can still make that small cut, because there was another couple that I have where the 1 inch was so far over this way that it didn't cut well. So, or it didn't cut easily for me. I still haven't found my perfect cutter, I'll be honest. And if you have an idea of a perfect cutter, I have a Fiskars. I have the regular Fiskars, similar to the cutter, the Stampin' Up! Cutter that I have there, similar to that. Then I also have, I think, a We Are Memories Keeper cutter. I have a guillotine cutter. I have a Fiskars Precision cutter. And the Fiskars Precision cutter I like quite a bit for cutting my normal papers, and for, actually I like cutting my chipboard on that, as long as the chipboard isn't too thick. If it's too thick, I rather do it on the dolly, but dolly is not my favorite cutter. I want to like it because everybody says I should, but I can't say that I do. I want to, but I can't say that I do like it. All right, so that one inside is done. The next one that we're going to do is this inside piece. And same thing on this side, we're going to put these down first. So that I get these on properly, and then I can cut my little bit bigger piece. It's a lot easier to cut a bigger piece a little bit off it than trying to match up your thinner pieces and cutting them down if you need them to be thinner, or you know, thinner for the matting. So that's why I'm doing it this way. I don't know if I said it. I know I was thinking about it, but if you have thoughts about what is your favorite cutter and why you like it, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you like about it, and what maybe I'll take a look at that too. So I just want to be able to find the ones that can give me an all-around nice design for a cutter. And part of the problem that I have is I really like a cutter that I can do everything on and does almost everything for me. This is a good length, so I'm just going to cut off that edge piece, or maybe just 2, but I think I have 3 or 4. No, I have 4 or 5. I don't know. You know, it's one of those situations that you kind of feel like it always can get better. All right, so this is our easel. This is the inside of this. So this needs to stand. I just want to make sure I'm getting this standing the right way. For goodness sakes, you'd think I was a... Oh God. Do you know, I was trying to get that the right way the whole time, and it didn't go on the right way. Oh my gosh. It goes the right way like that, but now upside down it goes. Okay, well, we'll just make them both the same way for the easel, and we should be good to go. It's not going to matter. It's underneath, and nobody is ever going to know the difference except for you and I. It is what it is. And I'm not ripping it off because of that. It's the back of it. But you all can attest that I was trying to do it the right way. Oh my gosh. So there we go. We just expanded upon our pattern paper a little bit by adding some little strips in there. And then this will all come up like this. And we will cover over these pieces of the easel. And I've cut the recipe pieces out. Ooh, my ribbon flipped out. Okay, now this sits like that. We're going to get this going the right way this time. Like I said the last time I was going to. Let's get this put on. And then once we get this put on, we're going to put the plastic over the front piece. Now with this, because this back is a little bit larger than my first box that I did, is there is the option to cover the back of this as well with plastic if you would like to be able to put 2 recipes out at one time. You absolutely can do that. Or the other option is to put a pocket on the back of here so that you can put other recipes in there. You can put some paper in there. You could put a little pencil holder on the back of here so that if you're in the kitchen, you have what you need to help you with getting your recipes or writing notes down on your recipes. So with a little bit bigger back end to that, it's a little bit easier to put something on the back to hold other things. Don't get me wrong, the smaller one, you probably could put some, you could probably even put like a Post-it notepad on the back of that and use it for notes on your recipes. So we're going to put this down. Okay, so as I'm sitting here, I just thought of something. I forgot to give you the measurements. So I'm going to give you the measurements for these front and back pieces. The measurements for my pattern paper is 6 3/8 by 5, and you'll need 2 of those for front and back. On the back of here, these were 1/2 inch on either side, and that's the same on both sides of the back. And then this inner piece is 5 3/8. So 5 3/8 and 5 3/8. So these just mirror each other on both sides of this. I think I gave you this as well, but if I didn't, I'm going to give it to you again. This one on the top of the box is just like a pinch above 6 1/2, so it's 6 1/16 by I would say 5 1/8. Yep, 5 1/8. All right, so the other thing that we are going to do, and I'm going to cut this off camera just because don't need to sit and watch me. I am going to take, this is 1/4 inch, so I am going to take and put in here just slightly less than 1/4 inch there, and slightly less than 1/4 inch here, and actually this is probably going to be about the right size. And if it isn't, I'll take a little bit off before I put it down. I will be putting that down onto there and on this hinge. So that'll get us going there. The other thing that we have to put on here is I took and cut out one of the cut-aparts. I fussy cut it out. I also glued it down to black paper. And what I was going to do then is take a piece of my leftover chipboard that I have, and I'm not going to cut it in an exact dimension to exactly what this is. But I'm going to take a piece of this and glue it to the back of here. So probably about this size I'll put on the back of here so that it lifts it off a little bit to hold our easel, up on the back of this box. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down right now, and then this will give us a little bit of a lip to hold our easel, and it will not interfere with the easel in and of itself. So that's just going to go right there and will be held on that lip. And I'm just going to put that in the middle, and I'm just going to eyeball it. If it's a little bit off, it's not going to matter that much. So we'll let that onto there, and we'll let that dry. Put that down, and that'll still, you see how, I don't know if you can really tell, but there is still a good magnet connect on that. So then what we were talking about is on the front of this easel here, what I did on the other recipe folder is I ended up putting a piece, oh, what was I doing here? I ended up putting some plastic down to the top of this so that you can put the recipes into that plastic so that it doesn't get any kinds of mess or goop on it. So what we're going to do to begin with is I'm using a piece of 1/8 inch score tape, and I'm going to go from side to side right along the edge. All right. Do that, and then I'm going to do the same thing along this side. That goes side to side, right along the edge. And the reason why I'm using an 1/8 inch of the score tape is because I will put along the top of this a 1/4 inch piece of the pattern paper so that we can so that it is covered up. All right, so this is, let's get our little pocket on there. And what this is this is just a pocket that I have that I use for my die cuts or my stamps, and I cut off this side, so we're going to put some score tape in here. And but there is it's closed on this side and it's closed underneath, and I have the score tape on here because that's where we're going to put our pattern paper. But then I also took, you can take any size. This is a 1 1/4 size where I notched out a little piece so I can still help to get the recipe out when it's ready. And where is, all right, so let's take this and fit this down. And with score tape there really is no wiggle room, so Just make sure you're getting it down corner to corner how you want it. And then we are going to put this side down corner to corner. And the reason why I do this side last, and I do the other side first, is because of this flap on here. I want to make sure that I have that down well. And for this piece, I will put some score tape in here inside to make sure that it's being held down well. Where's my pokey tool? The reason why I'm using the score tape versus glue is really because this is not a porous surface, so the glue doesn't get into it as well as it does with paper. So we are going to take and put a piece of score tape along the edge of here. And again, I didn't cut these yet, so I'll cut them off camera and just put them on, but I'll show you what I'm going to do with this. So what this is going to do then is it's going to cover up our tape. We are going to put just like a 1/4 of an inch piece of the pattern paper along this edge so that it covers up any of our tape on there. And then that will be done and good to go. So this is where we're going to tuck our recipes in. All right, so in covering the rest of the box, we just have covering the sides and the bottom. I want to show you that in the front here, remember where I pulled that piece off and there was a lot of glue on there? I just took a construction strip and glued over the top of it so I would be sure that none of this glue or the damage that was on here was going to show on my pattern paper. So I added that if you would like to do that. And this is going to be the front of the box, and this front and back is going to measure the same. Just want to dry fit it. Sorry if I was out of camera. So our bottom of our box, the paper is, this is 6 and 5, not 5/8, 6 3/8 by 4 7/8. So this is just taking 1/8 of an inch off of the bottom's measurement because it did not expand longer. Sorry, I just gotta pull this over a little bit. Put that on there. that to happen. I'm gonna set that like that. It will be easier for me. All right, just take your time putting it down so that you get it glued exactly where you want it. We'll do this side. My little notes to myself. Now, as far as decoration goes on the recipe box, I really leave that up to you. There's a lot of things that you could do or you could put on here. I personally think the pattern paper is pretty enough and it's busy enough that it doesn't need to have a lot of other decoration onto it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the God darn it, sorry. I'm going to put the spoons, the spoon, fork, and knife back onto this recipe box as well. So that's going to be probably the limit to what I'm going to be doing with that. And what I'm going to do is finish this up. I'll see where I'm at with everything, and then if there is going to be more that we need to add, I will go through that and we'll come back for a third tutorial. If I don't have too much time on this, because the truth is that most people don't like to watch videos that are too long, and so I don't want to get this going on and on and on too long and not giving you the opportunity to watch other videos and other crafters for you to get an opportunity to see what we're doing here. So, all right, then our back piece is on. And I'm also going to put a bottom piece on. And that is our front. Does that close? Yeah. I was afraid I made a mistake and it's not closing right, but it's good. All right. So this is our front. So I'm going to put this so it faces towards the front. And again, this you can leave the bottom of this box just black cardstock. I just happen to like putting the pattern paper down on it as well. So that's totally up to you. Whatever your preference is. Or you could choose to put a different cardstock on the bottom. It could be a solid black. It could be one of the other patterns that maybe complements this pattern paper. I guess I could take that note off though. Bottom box. And then that gives us all of our, everything covered except for our smaller pieces here, and each one of these, now these again are going to be, this is a 1/4 inch, so it'll probably be just slightly less than the 1/4 inch, so I'd have to tell you in 16ths, so just cut a 1/4 inch and take a hair off. And then this one will be a full 1/4 inch on this side, as well as on the top here, cut a 1/4 inch, take a smidgen off, and you're set to go. And this is where you'll have your recipes all set and ready to go for your box. And I'm going to put my fork, knife, and spoon on this side of my box again. Then when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do with the inside dividers. I will show you that in the next one. So for now, thank you so much. Have a great night, and we will see you soon. Thank you.